right, this one's pretty cool because not only is he from my hometown, but I also got to meet up with him in LA. We were actually going to go hiking together because we're both on a bit of a weight loss journey, but instead we just did an old-fashioned interview. Great kid. Before becoming one of OVO's most promising homegrown superstars, well, the rapper Smiley, he was born Alexandre Morand on August 6, 1997 in Montreal, Canada. Now, growing up French, well, that was his first language, but he didn't live in Quebec for long before moving to Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the age of just 3 years old.
No, I was born in Montreal when I was a kid, and then I moved to Toronto when I was young.
There's Smiley. Well, he was raised in a family of both Mexican and Haitian descent on the streets of Pelham Park. Now, that's a neighborhood that would come to play a huge role in the development of his sound, and while speaking with Complex, well, Smiley, he would reveal, everything came from there. In Pelham, there was just a lot of drug dealing going on. It just made me want to do all that stuff. Now, I mentioned this to Smiley in the interview, but the area he grew up in is actually where my YouTube career took off. It's like the Junction. I was working in there in 2013. I was there until 2018. It played a big part in me becoming the YouTube guy that I did. So yeah, shout out to Junction. It was parents Yohan and Edie. Well, they did what they could to keep their son away from these temptations of the streets. And his mother, she worked as a cashier at a local restaurant while running a cleaning business on the side. Now, his father, he would head to the outskirts of town each day and he'd worked as a lumberjack. That's right. He was actually cutting down trees. Now, unfortunately, well, Smiley's father, he would disappear from his life around the age of 5, which is why his relationship with him was never all that solid. Now, thankfully, well, he's much closer with his mother, even though she too was often busy trying to earn a buck not only for Smiley, but his siblings. We're talking Levi, Ahjalla, Vanessa, and Yohan. Now, speaking of family, well, Smiley's older brother, he did what he could to be an excellent male role model by keeping an eye on his little bro and making sure that he stayed off of the streets. Now, that meant that Smiley, well, he spent a lot of his early years inside the house playing video games like Call of Duty.
Older brother.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the way he moved, Mm-hmm. He would always, from young, never bring...
Eventually, however, the temptation to make easy money would be too difficult for Smiley to resist. Now, by the time he was in high school, well, he was a full-fledged trapper and coming up with the motto that would shape not only his career on the streets, but his music as well. We're talking buy or buy. Simply put, when you were shopping from Smiley's collection, you either bought something or you got to step in. Now, there was no in-between, and soon enough, Smiley, well, he was earning a ton of bread, certainly way more than he ever earned previously in his earliest job as a paper delivery boy. But outside of trapping and video games, well, Smiley, he had other big-time passions, and of course, we're talking rap music. Now, after attending a French immersion school during his early years, well, he transferred to the Oakwood Collegiate Institute for his final year of high school, where his favorite class was gym, and he discovered music from artists like 50 Cent and Lil Wayne.
There's actually no reason to it, because, in school, they always, the popular kids are, the popular girls, the popular kids.
Now, generally speaking, well, Smiley, he didn't pay attention in school. That's probably why he wound up getting expelled in the 11th grade. Thankfully, well, life had other plans for him, and even though he never had any intention of getting into hip-hop, well, after a few of his friends started freestyling around that time, well, Smiley asked to tag along to check out the studio. Now, once his friends had laid down some bars, well, they asked Smiley to contribute as well. Now, not wanting to look like a punk, well, he spent 2 hours writing a verse, and then he went into the booth to lay it all down. Now, according to his own assessment, well, that first verse, it was crap, but thankfully, he'd get a whole lot better from there. A few weeks later, well, he and his friends, now dubbed the Garden Gang, well, they began releasing some of their music online, starting with the single Too Much. Now, before long, well, they were generating a real buzz around the city of Toronto. Now, Smiley's rap career began alongside the Garden Gang in 2014, and one of his first orders of business was to come up with a killer moniker. Now, his first stage name was Actual Double B, which was short for Big Boy, but he eventually grew to dislike it. Now, wanting something a little catchier to play with, well, he came up with Smiley_61st, which was originally his trapper name before dropping the number and shortening the entire thing to just Smiley.
Double B. Yeah, so no, I had to change that because I just started rapping, but that was my first nickname,
And if you're still wondering, why Smiley? Well, it's decidedly simple. It's because, well, the kid, he's always smiling. Honestly, sitting next to him, he gave off such a good energy. He's just someone you want to be around. Now, trust me, I just did an interview with a dude a few weeks ago, and that huge grin, it was just plastered on his face like Jim Carrey in The Mask. It was there the entire time. I'm honestly a little bit jealous. He made me smile. But just because he's a good-natured dude, well, it doesn't mean he can't get serious as well. In point of fact, well, a lot of anger bubbles up inside of Smiley's music music once he hits the booth, and that's where his true feelings emerge. Like in the 2014 single Hit, which became the first song of his that landed him on Drake's radar. He told Complex, "That was the first time I'd ever seen that Drake knew who I was or anything. One of his boys posted my song and he commented under it and said, Smiley equal GOAT." Then there was the 2015 track Garden Girl, the single that made Smiley stick out amongst the other members of the Garden Gang crew. Somewhat of a love letter to Toronto women, well, this song helped develop the framework of Smiley's rhymes. Now, his original hope had always been to create melodic sounds, but whenever he opened his mouth, well, his voice came out with a drag. Now, eventually he chose to embrace this technique rather than to fight it, and the end result was his track 9 on Me, which got him onto producer Boy Wonder's radar. The downside, well, Smiley, he was actually locked up at the time, chilling behind bars for a gun charge. But by the time he was out of jail in 2017, well, Drake was publicly celebrating his work louder than ever, which provided the jolt of energy Smiley needed to revitalize his career.
It's actually, I love it. That's my guy, you know, that's my fucking guy to the death of this shit.
The following year, Will Smiley would drop his debut album, Buy or Buy, which utilized his hushed, slow flow to reflect on menacing tales about his former life on the streets. Now, that project, it resonated so strongly with Drake that he even named it as an influence to his own work, Scorpion, later that year, after posting lyrics to Smiley's single Free Baby on Instagram in response to the Pusha T diss track, The Story of Adidon. Now, from there, Will Smiley, he began making up for lost time by dropping one new project after another. Now, first came A Tape to Remember 2018, followed by The Road to Buy or Buy 2, The Playlist in 2019, and YYZ to LAX in 2020. But appropriately enough, it was his collaboration with Drake, Over the Top, that would, well, take Smiley's career over the top. Released in 2019, Will Smiley worked diligently to make sure that this song was perfect. Now, he recorded 3 different verses before deciding which of the 3 was best. Then he hid the song away in his library for a year and a half, waiting for the perfect time to release it. Now, once Drake had officially signed Smiley to the OVO roster, well, it was now or never. Now, Drake threw a team of his biggest and brightest behind Smiley to help guide him, including musical luminaries like Mr. Morgan, Ollie, 40, Future, and all of whom only believed in Smiley's talent, but they also nurtured it as well.
Gets people to join OVO. Does he do like an official owl ceremony where he gives you the necklace?
Like, all right, so like, yeah, I guess because everyone has that. Like, this is a real certification. Like,
I know.
And thanks to Over the Top, Will Smiley had his first Billboard Hot 100 entry, which introduced him to a wider audience than ever before. Now, following his breakthrough hit, Will Smiley, he hopped back into the studio to record the sequel to his debut project, Buy or Buy 2. Now, boasting appearances from Young Blue, Drake, Pressa, and OGZ, well, this new album saw Smiley leveling up his game once again. Then his entire life, well, it hit something of a glow up at the age of 24. Well, Smiley decided to move to Los Angeles. He hired a personal trainer and he lost a bunch of weight. Now, he also cut out booze and cannabis and even went full vegetarian. Now, at the time I met with him, he wasn't totally sober. He was still working out. But yeah, I guess he goes into phases. Sometimes he's cutting the weight. Other times he's enjoying his life. And who can blame him? Now, instead of posting up in a trap house somewhere, well, Smiley's posting motivational and life-affirming hashtags to the gram, where he calls it Motivation Mondays. Instead of making music drunk or high, well, Smiley is making a concentrated effort to write or freestyle his music sober. Now, it's not always easy, and it definitely makes the process feel a whole lot more like work, but he's much happier with the finished product this way. And if you don't believe me, well, listen to some of his new music like Nicki Nine Door and Sixer, the later of which dropped in May of 2023, and boasts a collaboration alongside lifestyle brand Astro Pink. Now, this is a cannabis certification company known for its alien brand character, who takes Smiley on one wild and crazy ride through the universe in the singles music video. But it's not just out of this world entities that have found promise in Smiley's music. One of hip-hop's biggest up-and-coming artists, Ice Spice, well, she's also a huge fan of his music and recently revealed to Elle that she was starstruck when she met Smiley for the first time at OVO Fest.
You know what's so funny? I was starstruck when I seen Smiley at OVO Fest, and like, shout out Smiley, but I don't know why.
Wow, that's about as good as it gets, I'd say. Now, we actually asked Smiley about this in our interview. Now, having big-time fans like that supporting his music, will no doubt pay off in the long run, as Smiley attempts to cross off his long-term goals by giving back to his family and the community, while also becoming one of the most accomplished rappers of all time, with a litany of Billboard hits, money, and Grammys. But if there's one message that Smiley wants to share with his fans, it's simply this: believe in yourself, believe you can do it, even when others don't think you can. Now that little nugget, it's brought Smiley to where he is today, and hopefully, well, it can do the same for you. For now, however, well, that's gonna bring the end to our latest edition of Before They're Famous, but we do have an interview with Smiley we just dropped, or it's the next video coming, so be sure to check that thing out. It's me, it's Smiley, it's Kev, three guys from Toronto, all shooting the shit. So look forward to that if you haven't watched it already. I have a question for you guys we leave down below. Who is the one Toronto rapper you think the community is sleeping on the most? To me, to be honest, they're all in prison. Right? Like I just saw the next guy, Doovie. I was with him in the DMs and now he's gone to jail. And of course, top 5, and there's another guy. So yeah, you either got to get out of the 6 or you're going to the sticks. And by that, I mean Milton Prison, right? Or Kingston. Anyway, you let me know. I'm sure there's other artists out there that are popping up. As always, that's why this channel never ends, because there's always a new roster of talent. Everyone's reaching for the dream of being a star, getting on before they're famous. My name's Michael McCredden. If you enjoyed this video, we have other recent interviews we did in LA. We sat down with Nizzy Nice, who a lot of you might not know, but then there's other stars like Troy Ave and Pressa, Kid Boo. You definitely know them. So be sure to cruise around the channel, check out some of our recent episodes, and I'll see you guys in another video.